So this is the ACT step-by-step developments, and this specific workshop aimed at gathering your feedback and your opinion on key aspects of resources to assess carbon performance. This is workshop 3, and your contribution is really appreciated. And it's also a good opportunity for you to understand more about the ACT initiative and this specific step-by-step methodology, as well as general understanding of climate accountability for corporate. This development work will last until early January 2021, and it is led by ADEME, the French Agency for Ecological Transition, with support from a consortium of 3 consultancies. So my name is Lisa, and I'm working for the ACT initiative at ADEME. My colleague Edouard Faudrin is with us today as well. I let him introduce briefly.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Welcome, everybody. So my name is Edouard Faudrin. I work in ADEME for the ACT initiative for almost 4 years now. I'm involved in the methodology development of ACT, but also in the implementation of the ACT initiative in France.
Thank you, Edouard. Maybe Rémi and Leo from Eco2 and IKEA, you can introduce yourself and team members.
Yes, hello everybody. This is Rémi Marcus from Eco2 Initiative. I am the project manager on the consultant side for this ACT step-by-step development project. And please, Lisa, tell me on which slide you would like me to share my screen. I have to say I was a bit lost in the first minutes. Sorry.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Hello,
Leo,
good
if you
afternoon,
want.
everyone. So my name is Leo Gina. Yes, we have a little bit of delay. So my name is Leo Gina. I am project manager at IKEA and Consult, and I will be working on this project alongside with Eco2 and Utopie.
Okay, thank you everyone for this introduction. So like I said, you can, for the participants, you can type your name and surname and organization in the chat box so everyone can see who is in this meeting. Just now, everyone is on mute, but we will give you the opportunity to discuss later on during the meeting to have some discussion around the contribution that we will have about carbon performance tools and resources. So don't worry, there will be time for live discussion. Rémi, if you can go to the next slide. Okay, so it's just a brief summary about the ACT step-by-step. So the initiative ACT was founded by ADEME and CDP, and we developed an accountability framework, including sector-specific assessment methodologies. ACT assessments provide recommendations to companies to align their strategy with their individual low-carbon pathways. And the assessment results are ratings that can be used by investors, policymakers, and NGOs to make investment decisions, design impactful policies, or raise public awareness. But on the other hand, companies express the need for support with structuring and implementing low-carbon strategy. So this is why we developed the ACT step-by-step, a progress standard approach, which is complementary of the ACT assessment sector methodologies. And we can see between the ACT step-by-step and the ACT assessment methodologies an iterative cycle. We also had a preparation study conducting earlier this year that really laid the ground for this development work with the objective by early 2021 to have developed the methodology and the tools to support company and interested parties in structuring and implementing those low carbon strategies. And those workshops really are an opportunity for us to get your views on specific aspects of the methodology and the tools. So the ACT step-by-step approach is based on the 9 strategic levers identified in the ACT assessment methodology, and each module includes few indicators. So these are the basis for the 6 steps improvement process of the ACT support methodology, and each step includes specific tasks for the company to address relevant strategic levers and build an ambitious low carbon strategy. So the ACT step-by-step development project includes 8 workshops. This is number 3, and today we have both time for interactive sessions that we did before during workshop 1 and 2, but also discussion between the participants following a contribution from Nature et Découverte from Sandra Landesma, who recently conducted an ACT assessment, and she will let us know a bit more about her experience using carbon performance assessment tools and resources. All the workshops from 1 to 8 are on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. CET, and they last about an hour. Every time we've got workshop, we send the replay version and the slide deck as well. So don't worry, we will send the slides later after the workshop, including registration link for the next workshop, so you can register in advance, but you can also forward those registration links and the slides to people you think might be interested in joining us. And today we are going to focus on the carbon performance assessment resources and tools which are relevant to step 2 and 4 of the ACT step-by-step process. So we are going to have a quick feedback on workshop 1 and workshop 2. So we had about 60 participants for the workshop 1, which this workshop was about developing the ACT support methodology. And we had a good representation of the different stakeholders of the ACT initiative, including consultancy, company, public institution, investors, and NGOs. Number of participants to workshop 2 dropped significantly to 21. We had more consultancies representation and no more investors. In general, participants seem to find value in the workshop, as session evaluation are close to the maximum rate of 5. But we put in place a number of actions to reach out specifically to companies for this workshop, number 3, because we want to increase their participation, and we would really appreciate your help in that sense. So if you want to invite other companies to participate to the next workshops, that would be really appreciated. So following workshop 1, participants expressed an interest in joining most workshops. We also send invitation for all the upcoming sessions so people can book in advance, like I said. We recommend you register in advance so we can adapt based on forecasted attendance. During workshop 1, participants made some suggestions for the ACT methodology's name. So that's the yellow post notes that you can see there. And the ACT governance, which is represented by ADEM and CDP, will make a selection, and then we'll suggest that selection to a final vote during the workshop 7 in December. So you will be welcome to give your opinion on that name. Workshop 2 was about the initial diagnosis step, including specific question on what do you think the prerequisites are, the individuals that need to be involved during that initial diagnosis, and how do you think we should organize, or how do you think company and should organize this diagnosis. We also heard about your views on how to make this step easier for the company and for your team in a company. Also during workshop 2, we asked your views on the progress grid. So this is the tool that is used to complete the initial diagnosis. And we asked you about its format, for example, but also the key features. We finally discussed the pros and cons for the ACT step-by-step approach to merge with a company strategic development process. And those on the slide are the difficulties and solutions that that we summarized for you to see the participant contribution. Now, I hope everyone catched up with us. We've got 30 participants, so hopefully everyone managed to rejoin us. I'm really sorry again for the inconvenience we had early on today. So I think now we have the contribution from Sandra Ledesma, who is a sustainability officer at Nature et Découverte, and she will give us some outline of carbon management and assessment of the carbon performance tools and resources.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will switch. I guess I have like 5 minutes, and so I will be short. I'll switch between French and English because I didn't have time enough to prepare myself in English, but I try to explain as much as possible in English what we did. So I want to explain what we do, but we are retailers, Nature Découverte, and we're based in France. We start our ACT process in the last year, but we've been calculating our carbon footprint since about like 15 years ago. But we have two main questions, and it was very difficult for us to answer those questions. The two were which could be our targets in the long term related to our carbon footprint, and how can we include the product in our carbon footprint strategy or lower carbon strategy. Because as we all know, in the retailers companies, like 80 or 90% of our impact is on our products, even if we are not building or producing our products. The most of the impact is there. So we start ACT process the last year, and what we learned is that one of the main things that we can assess our carbon footprint. I mean, we've been doing that since 15 years ago, but we never include, as we should, all the employees in the process, and for ACT we had to do it. We did like 3 workshops, and there were many employees included in the process, as also the board, and that helped us to build, first of all, to know better what they think and their opinions, and also their ideas, but also to increase awareness about these subjects. Also, the second thing that we learned is that we definitely, but we knew it already, but that confirm that confirm what we were thinking, is that we definitely have to include the products in our low carbon strategy. And so we decide to launch a project about that, and not only how we can calculate our carbon footprint, but more like how we can develop new services and products that are good for they are I don't know how to say that, but cohérent, that we can I don't know how to say that, cohérent avec les enjeux climat. The second point is our carbon performance metrics, targets, and monitoring. So we always used the carbon footprint tool from Association Bilan Carbone in France, and the base carbone de l'EDEME. We do it every semester. We calculate our carbon footprint from scope 1, 2, and 3, partially because we don't include before we didn't include the products. Now we are start doing it, and that's what we do a bit about monitoring. And thanks to ACT, we start working our targets for the long term, and they're based on the science-based target, based on science-based target. And the 3 point is our practical resources to assess carbon performance. So as I said, we use there are French tools that they are made for companies to calculate the carbon footprint, and we also have an intern every year that help us to do this, to assess our carbon footprint. So that's what I have to say. If you have any questions, I will try to answer to you with pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Yeah, I think we've got some time just now if people have questions. I think Remy is going to give you, yeah.
So my question is the question is coming from David Gatin from gatin.co. I would like to know if you finally changed your strategy approach about I mean, you are a seller, you are in the retail business, so your aim is to sell products. So do you change this approach with this new methodology?
I have to be honest, we do change our approach, but ACT just confirmed that. But the really how to say motor, what we really push us to change, it was the work that we are doing in France about the raison d'être. How do you say that in English? I don't know how to say raison d'être. If someone knows how to say raison d'être in English, but it's the since last year we start to redefining our business model, and we decide to develop more services than products, and it's something that we are going to start doing the next year. And there is a new department in the company that it's in charge of the development of this kind of products. It's called sustainability innovation, and they were going to work and develop new services, also products, but more like eco-design products, also to develop and accompany a new community about the subjects. And ACT confirmed that we were doing the good changes in our strategy, and also confirmed that we have to measure that impact. So it's not only about changing things, but we have to measure, and carbon is one of the indicators that could help us to do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandra. I think we've got someone asking a question in the chat box. So can I ask you that question, Sandra? I think it's asking about when did you start to add the product footprint measurement, and was it only when you started the ACT assessment, or was it, I guess, before?
Okay. So just before we start working in the purpose and about the question, no, we never do that before ACT, and it was thanks to ACT that we had to do it, because for I mean, like 40% of the score, the ACT score, it's related to the product strategy. So if you don't have any carbon footprint about it, you can I mean, it's not you can use ACT, I mean, something like that. So we start doing it the last year, and it was really soft soft methodology. We used something that we call in France the monetary ratio, or ratio monétaire, monetary ratio. I don't know how to say in English, but it helped us to have an idea how much carbon footprint are we talking about. And the project for the next year is that we want to work with some expertise, external expertise, to help us to improve this assessment of our products. But we not intend to calculate precisely the carbon footprint of every product, because we have like 10,000 products, different kind of products and different kind of materials. But the thing is that we want to know what a better idea how much is it and what the impact of our products. But which are the actions that we have to implement, the materials, how can we work with our suppliers, how can we improve our supply chain, more in terms of a strategy, because we know that it will take many years to have a really accurate carbon footprint of every product. So, but we start really last year thanks to ACT.
Thank you, Sandra. I think there's a question maybe on one of your last remark about how do you maybe calculate what you call the monetary aspect of the carbon metric. So how do you maybe make that conversion between a carbon footprint and the money? Yep.
We use the la base carbone de l'ADEME and some information that the consultancy team was working with us in this process. And it's, for example, there are some database that tell you according to the price of your product, which would be the carbon footprint of that product, and if it's like textile, of a book, or electronic device, it may be different. But what you have to take in mind is that it's like 80% of comment je dis incertitude. 80%. Where it's like 80% assumption or 80% of uncertainty or error, uncertainty in the data. So it cannot really help. It's not something that you have to communicate in telling your clients or your customers that your product is better than another one. It's just for having an idea of how much carbon footprint I'm talking about, and then where you have to, which are the hotspots in your product in your products. If it's more like you know, here in our company, we even sell food. We sell food, textile, in many different things. So helps you in some way to prioritize, or to help you to know how can you start. And it's based on, you can find that on internet, is la base carbone de l'ADEME. And yes, and the consultancy team help us to do that and act in their information too. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yes, I think so.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I think I don't know if we've got any more time for this specific discussion, because we've got 2 interactive sessions coming up, specifically on those tools and resources to assess carbon performance, and we discussed this a bit with you, Sandra. Thank you. So we discussed this with you on your experience using the Bilan Carbon tool and the base carbon from ADEME, and we really would like to discuss those topics a bit further. So this is why we've got those interactive sessions coming up, and I think I'm gonna give the floor to Rémi to introduce the interactive session.
Yes, actually, this will be. I think I will be leaving the floor to Leo for a presentation on the main subject related to Sandra's presentation a minute ago for the workshop, which is the carbon performance toolbox. Please, Leo, go ahead. Leo, can you hear us?
Thank you, Remy, and good afternoon again to everyone. So I will just start by giving a few introduction regarding the Yes, I am speaking now. Regarding the content, I think we have a little bit of delay. So regarding the content of the main content of the carbon toolbox performance, and after this introduction, we will open 2 interactive sessions. So next slide, please. So the carbon performance in ACT step-by-step approach will enable, it should enable to gather all metrics and targets that will be used in order to assess and manage the low carbon strategy for any type of company. And these metrics and targets will be used along the process, and more particularly in steps 2 and 4. Next slide, please. So in step 2, the company will set the metrics that will enable to understand its main issues and challenges. So first, identify the relevant carbon metrics depending on its activities. It could be basic indicators like ton of CO2, absolute emissions of the company, of course, but it could be as well relative indicators like kilogram of CO2 per ton of products. And we had the example of Nature et Découverte a few minutes earlier. It could be, for example, for an hotel operator, a kilogram of CO2 per room. For example, it could be a more relevant indicator for this type of company. Second aspect is to identify the relevant benchmark pathways from now on until 2050 in order to assess the performance of the company towards specific benchmark. And a third aspect would be to assess its current performance using the relevant metrics and associated benchmark pathways for the sector of the company. In step 4, the company will work on its low carbon strategy, and to do so, this company will set one or several targets on a short-term or long-term basis using the main relevant metrics identified in step 2. So, for example, for a company from the manufacturing sector, they may choose to set a target in terms of CO2 per ton of products, and an additional target regarding its vehicle fleet. For example, if this is a relevant post of emissions, and if this company has a wide fleet of vehicles, for example. So it could be one or several targets in order to monitor the low carbon strategy. Next slide, please. So this working session is dedicated to the carbon performance toolbox. As Lisa presented earlier, it comes after a session regarding the process grid, and this session will be followed next week by a specific session regarding the strategy toolbox. So the main idea of the carbon toolbox will be to provide resources in order to facilitate the life of the company. And these resources may be internal resources, for example, the greenhouse gas inventories of the company. And again, Nature et Découverte example is quite relevant because there is a track record, as far as I understood, of 15 years of greenhouse gas inventory. So this is quite relevant and very useful. And there might be as well in this carbon toolbox performance external resources. For example, base carbon, as it was presented before, which is a database of emission factors. And inside this database, we may have monetary ratio, which enable to convert expenses in euros to greenhouse gas emissions. So there might be emission factor database, additional tools. We discussed about product footprint tool, and we will open specifically a discussion about what you would think it's relevant to put in this carbon performance toolbox. So this carbon performance toolbox will gather the most relevant information regarding the relevant metrics for the company, as well as one specific tool, Excel tool, whose main purpose will be to help the company compiling the main relevant metrics and targets and data in order to monitor its low carbon strategy. Next slide, please. I have almost finished. Yeah, so as a synthesis, we identified inside the technical team several objectives that this carbon performance toolbox should fulfill, and they are here displayed on the screen. At this stage of our work, we consider that this carbon performance toolbox should enable to identify the maturity of the company on how to organize the carbon metrics, to understand the level of ambition expected and select the relevant KPIs to conduct the low carbon strategy, identify the data to be collected, visualize the carbon performance and compare it to specific pathways, relevant benchmark for the company, and to understand the links between the different low carbon initiatives. Nature and Découverte talked to us about SBT, Science Based Targets Initiative, which might be one of the close initiatives and interesting and relevant initiatives to be connected with while carrying out an ACT assessment. Next slide, please. Yeah, so yes. We can start the interactive session.
Yes, thank you, Leo. Perhaps before we start the interactive session, are there any clarification questions that you would like to ask about everything that has been presented so far? Do not hesitate to ask. Well, in this format that we have in this backup meeting format, you are able to switch your microphone on by yourself and ask questions, so do not hesitate. Okay, anyway, we will be going now to Klaxoon. So here is the link. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and will be copying the link. Yes, Jennifer just did that. So she copied the link to Klaxoon in the chat. Jennifer, I will leave you the floor together with I think with Elliot from iCare to comment and guide the participants into Klaxoon. And myself, I will stop sharing my screen now, but I will restart the sharing on Klaxoon, so you can have an example of where you are supposed to be in Klaxoon in case you get lost in it.
Yes, thank you, Rémi. Hello, everyone. I'm Jennifer from Eco2 Initiative, and I will be facilitating with Elliot this interactive session. So first of all, you have to join us on Klaxoon. You can follow the steps through Rémi's screen in Zoom. You first have to enter your email address, then your name and surname to join the meeting. If you already have a Klaxoon account, you have to enter your email address and password. And once you've arrived, you'll have to participate in an activity, which is just a quick start with Klaxoon. So you have to rate how are you doing today. And I can see that already 22 people have joined us on Klaxoon. In case you have any trouble joining us, don't hesitate to ask your question on the Zoom chat box. And if it's okay, we will go through the different activities. So today we will first ask you 2 questions, and then we will go to a brainstorming session. So you will see in a few seconds the first question on your screen. You have to click on the pink question and to answer in the white block. Please don't click at the bottom of the page on the different signs, message, notes, etc. Don't click on that. Just add your idea, just like Remy is doing in the white box. You can send as many ideas as you want. To complete this sentence, the ideal carbon performance toolbox should be, and I will share with you at the end of the session the tag cloud of keywords that you've chosen for this toolbox. So we will do this during a few more seconds.
Okay, we need at least 1 contribution per person, average. So
yes.
Please propose. It doesn't matter if it is a silly idea.
And maybe just think about currently the tools that you are using. Maybe they've got limitations or you find them difficult to use. So how do you wish, what kind of advantages do you wish they would have? Or if they were accessible one tool for you to use in an ideal world, which kind of feature or what kind of advantage this tool would have for you to help with carbon performance assessment?
And one little comment on my side, it could be regarding the content or the format as well.
Yes, we already have more than 30 ideas. So I'll close this activity and you'll see the next one will be quite similar because it's the same format, but the question is quite different. So when you're back on your board on Klaxoon, you can see the tag cloud and the main keyword is easy. We also have a simple, friendly, maybe it's user-friendly because the Klaxoon separates if you put 2 words. And we will start the other question, which is the ideal carbon performance toolbox should have. And please, you have to click on the pink link. Please just use 1 word to answer this question, but you can give as many words as you want. So maybe you can express quite a different idea than with the first question.
Yes, this one is more difficult, but
maybe it's more about the different features.
Yes.
Of the toolbox. And we already have 12 ideas. Don't hesitate to put several ideas.
Yeah, great. And even if your proposition has 2 words, do not hesitate. Huh? It's not a problem. Okay.
Okay, I can see almost 20 ideas. I will close this activity and we will go to the main activity for today, which is a brainstorming about the different outputs and resources that you will find on the Carbon Performance Toolbox. And here is the main keywords for this question. So we can see that you would like the toolbox to have a dashboard, benchmarks. You would like it to be digital as well. So now we will go to the brainstorming session. And Leo just presented the different objectives, the 5 objectives of the toolbox, which are to identify the maturity of my company, to understand the level of ambition expected, to identify the data to be collected, to visualize my carbon performance, and to understand the links between the different low carbon initiatives. So now the first question would be, what should be the outputs of the Carbon Performance Toolbox to achieve these objectives? So to add a new idea on the board, you just have to click at the bottom of the page on the plus, write down your idea on a post-note and send it to the board by clicking on the little paper plane on the green square. And then you can resize it or modify it. If it's your idea, if it's not yours, you can't modify it. Please use only one post-note for one idea, and you also have the possibility of liking ideas from other people. So you have to double click on a post-note and click on the little heart that will appear. So we already have some ideas. We can see the synthetic dashboard, so same main idea than with the previous question. We also have a score, letters or numbers, a GHG inventory, visual comparison with benchmarks, the improvements possible.
It could also be, for example, forecasts or these kind of things. And if you're interested in forecasts, it could be interesting to add it. It's useful for us, I'm Elliot from the technical team, to understand what you are looking for especially, so that we can shape the tool that way.
Yes, maybe Elliot or Leo, if you see some post notes that are not totally clear, don't hesitate to ask more about
yes.
the idea.
For example, when on the posted graphs, maybe we could be more precise on what type of graphs are these graphs, for example, forecast graphs of the carbon footprint, or maybe intensity graph, or maybe on the past performance of your company. So for example, like for Nature and Découverte with 15 years of data.
And I would have a question regarding conversion in money. Is it possible to clarify or maybe what would be expected?
So if you posted this idea on the board, you can switch on your microphone, or you can maybe add more info directly on the post-it note, or you can write down on the Zoom chat box, as you prefer. And for the people who have to leave the session, don't worry, we will send you the feedback, and we will send you an email after the session with all the information.
And maybe
and I would
one
have a tiny question.
Yes, go on.
Go ahead, Eliot. Okay. Regarding the greenhouse gas inventory, is it possible to clarify if it's reporting of this inventory or calculation?
And from my side, the possible improvements is quite interesting. Maybe it could be clearer to know if we are talking about qualitative improvements. So for example, with some levels, or if this is some gaps between the benchmark and the company performance. So maybe more quantitative improvements. Maybe we can have more information on this.
So don't hesitate to add information directly on your post-it notes if you want to complete your idea. And I repeat, if you think an idea is particularly relevant, you can like it, add a like. So you have to double click on it, and then click on the little heart to add a like to this idea. Leo and Elliot, I don't know if all the ideas on the board are clear for you. We have some more coming. We have some more about the dashboard, about the best practices.
Yes.
I think Leo and Elliot, you had some question about specific post note. I was wondering if the individual who wrote them down wanted to provide an answer to those questions. If you can switch on your mic so you can directly answer the question, but if you are more comfortable, you can type an answer into the chat box. You can even type it in French if you find that is easier for you to explain what you meant. It would be really helpful, like Leo and Elliot said, to have some clarification about your idea.
Yes, thank you, Lisa.
Yes, maybe one consideration on my side regarding the question about, and I think it's a clarification about what do we mean by understand the level of ambition. the idea here is to provide some benchmark and scenarios that reflect the level of ambition in terms of decarbonization for specific sectors. So concretely, here the proposal is to gather and to make available some trajectory for several sectors in order to visualize what is expected in terms of decarbonization. So this is what I could say about that.
Thank you, Leo. That was exactly my question. The question was, is it really for the board to understand their own level of ambition? But no, it's to make the board understand what they should aim at compared to the benchmark sector. So, okay, it's very clear for me.
Okay.
Yes, and one little additional comment. It's visualizing these benchmarks that are designed for specific sectors is interesting in order to identify what could be the relevant metrics for your company. Because if you use the same metric and if you build a specific pathway for your company, you will be able then to compare yourself to this benchmark. So it's quite interesting to have this information as well in mind and in your hand when you want to choose the relevant metrics.
Okay. If you have more questions, don't hesitate to ask. But we can go to the next activity. Well, we will stay on this brainstorm board, but now we will go to the inputs for this carbon performance tool. So the question on the left of your screen is what items should compose the various components of the carbon performance toolbox. And we divided them in three main components: external resources, internal data from the company, or other resources from the company, which means potential internal tools that the company may have. And this will be the different inputs for the tool, and you also have the possibility to add some ideas about what should be the carbon performance tool, what different elements should compose the tool. So now that we identified what we would like to have as outputs, we will think about what should be and what could be the different inputs for the tool. I don't know if it's clear. Don't hesitate to ask, or Leo and Elliot, you can maybe add some comments to make it clear.
Yes, maybe one comment. So the carbon performance tool will be the main tool that will display some results, but no computation will be done on this, or only a few computations. We will use external resources, internal data, and other resources from the company. So for example, you can create your own carbon footprint using the external resources, the carbon footprint from ABC, Association Bilan Carbone. And then the output will be in the carbon performance tool, and then you will have some graphs in this tool. The idea is that the carbon performance tool is not too difficult and quite easy and user-friendly.
So I don't know if the...
And one little additional comment on my side, while you're thinking about these inputs, I just would like to comment on this proposal in terms of output regarding action plan. I would say that sorry, yeah, we have a delay. I would say that some of included in or the strategy toolbox or the action plan manager, which are going to be additional tools. So here we are really focusing on metrics and targets component of this act step-by-step approach.
Yeah, I would say maybe the person who wrote down the scope from the in the internal data from the company, maybe could you explain a little bit what you think is linked with the scope directly on your post-it note or through your mic on Zoom? And the last, the third box, other resources from the company. It's about possible tools or management tools maybe you may have already in your company to set your targets or to have information about your carbon footprint or something like that.
And to answer the question from David, so the green post-it, the idea of the carbon performance tool is to be quite flexible to match with all industries and to all type of company sizes, for example. So you will be able to personalize a little bit the carbon performance tool by adding more variables that you want to focus on, for example, value added to calculate the scope 1 plus 2 over the value added or over the revenue or over the tons of product A, for example. So you can have this flexibility in the tool. This is the goal of the tool.
We see again the idea of the dashboard and graph, allowing an organization to follow the level of dependency with the carbon sources, etc. In the external resources, we have bilan carbon, SNBC trajectories, decarbonization pathways, SBTI tool, I guess GHG inventory. In the internal data, we have all purchases and sales data. Thank you to the person who had some more information about the scope. So it's about location-based or market-based. We also have relevant LCA analysis of products. And in the other resources from the company, we have a project leader, management clear support, and TMS.
In other resources from the company could also be, for example, information system that you will have inside your company and that will provide some purchases and sales data, for example. Or it could be internal carbon footprint calculation tools that you developed inside, this kind of practical tools, for example.
And please may the person who wrote TMS clarify what the acronym means. That will be great for everybody to be able to understand that. Thank you very much. Great.
Maybe you can have some ideas as well about the tool itself. We have different level of carbon performance tool depending on the public using it. Do you mean within the company? We have traceability of the supply chain, but it's to internal data. We have a suggestion, which is to have an evolving tool. So what do you mean by evolving? What do you want to be able to change, for instance?
And maybe one other comment on the last post-it, not based on mostly French emission factors. So once again, the goal of the carbon performance tool is not to compute any carbon footprint. The carbon footprint will be done in another tool, or maybe in external resources, or maybe internally. The carbon performance tool will only get the output from this carbon footprint, for example, and then we will have some graphs. The company will select some variables that the company finds interesting to display on graphs, for example. So the emission factors won't be in the carbon performance tool, but we will have in external resources some links or some database that could be useful that will provide emission factors, and we will try to not to focus only on French emission factors.
Yes, so I think that answers the post-it about the links to external resources. That's the point, to just put links to these different resources the company may have to use. That's the goal of the toolbox. I mean, one of the different goals. We have also glossary, user guide, available decarbonization pathways. So
in the user guide as well, we will create a user guide explaining how to use the external resources and some internal data from the company that you will have, so that you can, for example, be able to use quite easily the SBTi tool, and how to put the output of the SBTi tool into the carbon performance tool. And sorry, Jennifer, I cut you because of the delay. Sorry for that.
No problem. I was just going to say that available decarbonization pathways probably goes to the external resources that will be used as an input for the tool. So I'll move it to the left. And someone put the regular emission factors update, but as Elliot just said, the tool won't compute or calculate. So,
yes, we will update the data. For example, the database from ADEME with the emission factors will be the external resources, and it will be updated. As well as the other files. So SBTi tool, there is version 1.1, 1.2. Maybe in 1 or 2 years, there will be 1.3, etc. So it will be updated.
Yes. So don't hesitate if you have any question. We will probably close the brainstorming session in few minutes. If some ideas seem particularly relevant or important to you, don't hesitate to like the post notes. You have to double click on it. And so we can see easily the ideas that are more important to you.
Yes, and by the way, in case you have some more ideas after this brainstorming and after this webinar, please do not hesitate to tell us by email, to contact us, and to propose. We always welcome new ideas, and this will definitely always be positive for the developments to get your ideas. Even if you're not sure, do not hesitate to propose.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Rémi. So if it's okay, we will end this activity, and all the ideas will be sent to you after the meeting, of course. And I'll close the Klaxon activity, so you'll have the opportunity to give your feedback, so give an evaluation and leave a comment about today's workshop. So sorry again for the technical issues we had at the beginning of this workshop, and the fact that I noted that many of you didn't see that today the workshop will last more than 1 hour. So some people couldn't attend until the end. And Rémi or Lisa, if you want to conclude the session.
Yes, sure. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining and staying with us. Sorry, it was a bit longer than I expected, also because we had some technical issue at the beginning, but I can see that everyone did participate during the interactive sessions, so that's great. And like Rémi said, do not hesitate to get in touch if you've got ideas, after the workshop. We are still happy to hear from you. So we have our next workshop on Tuesday at 2 p.m. again. And we've sent the link to register for this next workshop, which will be about the strategy toolbox. So which we will be discussing specifically tools, methodology, methods, resources that company wants to use or are using already to develop and implement and monitor strategies, especially related to decarbonization, low carbon climate strategy. So we're going to be discussing those specific method and tools and which one we want to have to support to be used in the ACT step-by-step methodology, and which one we need to adapt to make them relevant for low carbon strategy. So thank you, everyone, and hope to see you on Tuesday to have another interactive sessions to discuss those topics.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Have a good afternoon.